So what if I were to ask you what you think about your doctor talking to you about your religious beliefs and your spiritual practices? Is that something that brings up anxiety and is something that you're like, no, thank you? Or is that something that was like, yeah, that'd be really cool. I think I'd like that. This is a question that I've asked myself many times over, and in the course of my treating patients in clinic, I've had some amazing conversations about their beliefs and their spirituality and things that they do, and it helps me as a clinician to get to know them a little bit better, and it helps them as a patient get to trust me and understand like I care about them as a whole person. That is what the Christian Clinician is about. I have a passion for medicine. I have a passion for God. And now I have a passion for bringing God into medicine and combining the two things that I love so much. And I know that I'm not the only one. There's something about the last several years that has just really brought this out to the forefront, right? I know a lot of people that I've talked to that were moderately spiritual. Maybe they've gone to church a few times, but never been a big piece of what they've done and who they are. It's just been there. And that was kind of me up until a couple of years ago. And then certain things happened in 2020, 2021, where, I was just looking for something more. And it was put on my heart to really start developing this relationship with my patients and helping to understand them a little bit where they are from a spiritual perspective. And that led me to start digging further and further into, physical health. Great. Like we as doctors do a great job talking about physical symptoms and physical problems, right? And now we're doing a better job at addressing the emotional aspects of somebody's health. But zero people talk about spiritual health in clinic. They don't see, it's actually a taboo thing, right? We don't want to talk about Christianity. We don't want to talk about Buddhism or Tibetan, whatever. We don't want to talk about those things because that's a private matter. But in reality, our spiritual beliefs, our spiritual practices, and whether they're healthy or unhealthy, plays a huge role in who we are and our physical and emotional symptoms. And now there is a ton of research out there that is actually supporting the fact that we should be including our spiritual health into our clinic visits, because the people that are able to express that, the people who are engaged in a healthy spiritual life, that they have a religion or a spiritual practice that they're following regularly, have better outcomes in cardiovascular, in autoimmune disease, in cancer. They live longer. They report a higher quality of life. They have lower depression, anxiety levels. Like the list goes on. And over the last 10 years or so, all of the studies that have been coming out on research in medicine has been suggesting this has a potential impact of great improvement in patient outcomes. And every single one says we should be starting to incorporate it, asking about a patient's spiritual health in clinic visits. Every single one of them that I've read, and I haven't read 4,000, but there's over 4,000 studies in PubMed that are addressing this and showing how our spiritual beliefs and our practices are actually influencing our physical health. And, as I started diving into this research, I started feeling that pull more and more. It's like, why aren't we doing this? Why isn't this out there? And I started feeling like I was being called to do that, to really start bringing God to the forefront in medicine, because if we're not looking at us as humans as a whole, we are spiritual beings. We have a physical component, we have our emotional component, and we have a spiritual component. And all of those, from a holistic standpoint, need to be addressed for the best outcomes. We can't ignore that anymore. And I think that's really been it's really been brought to the forefront of the attention of some people, including myself, of how important this is, over the last couple of years. So that's where the Christian Clinician was born, out of this desire to start bringing God back into medicine, to start creating a conversation around what it looks like to have healthy spiritual practices, to kind of open up the topic of church trauma and the negative impacts that religion can have, and how that might affect somebody's beliefs and their spiritual health, and starting to address some of those, because there is again, a lot of research about how religious practices and spiritual practices affect our brain. There's a whole new branch of study called neurotheology, where it's actually looking at how we engage in, or when we engage in meditation and prayer, and those kinds of things, that it actually changes our brain. It turns on some areas and turns off other areas. It moderates stress response. They're starting to find all these measurable things that simply engaging in prayer does. And so this is something that we can utilize. This is powerful medicine that we're not taking advantage of. So the Christian Clinician is basically is a few of us who have decided that we are really it's our mission to bring that forward and to start a conversation around that. We are very strong in believing the impact that our spiritual practices can have in our physical and emotional health. And we want to start talking about what that looks like, not making that taboo. Not having, if somebody gets angry about the fact that we're having a conversation around religion in medicine, where does that anger come from? Let's explore that together. Like if this video is making you upset or you're getting angry about it, let's talk about that. Let's talk about why is that a problem? Why is this something that you don't think is appropriate? And let's start to unpack that a little bit and see, how we can make the conversation more open and really just starting to bring people's awareness to the importance of involving God in our day-to-day. So I never introduced myself. I am Tanya Painter. I am a naturopathic doctor, and I am a Christian. I am a mom. I am a wife. And, again, this is something that's been laid on my heart to begin this conversation with all the good and the bad that it will bring, and really starting to unpack what it means to incorporate God into our healing journey. A lot of people already have, but a lot of people haven't. So I would just love to start interacting with you on that. If you have questions or thoughts or concerns or anger around any of this idea, bring it up. Let's do it in a respectful way, but let's talk about it. Let's, engage in that conversation and really start to understand how and why we should be thinking about how our spiritual health is impacting our physical health. So we're going to be talking a lot more about this. My partner in crime, Riley, is going to be on with me on Saturday, and we're going to do a little talking about both of our whys, and start doing some walk and talks where we're just going to have some conversations around some of the research that's out there and the impact that we're seeing spiritual practices can have on our physical and emotional health. And we're excited to share that with you guys.